I am Morphix. The earth does not forget. Dawn on the Nile Delta 3,500 years ago. An embalmer priest kneels at a stone press. From a handful of pale seeds, he squeezes a clear golden oil, runs it into a clay jar, seals it, and lays it in a tomb beside a Nubian nobleman named Myherpri. Oil for the journey past death. I was there. I remember the way that oil caught the torchlight as it ran. That oil sits today on a wellness shelf, sold back to you as a miracle. Almost no one who buys it knows it is African, pressed in the Valley of the Kings before there was an alphabet to write its name. This is what I do. I return what was taken, lost, or relabeled. Today I bring you 7 plant healers carried, brewed, and traded across centuries. Stay rooted, because number 5 is the one a foreign company tried to own and a community of grandmothers took back in a courtroom. Number 6 was locked inside a single sentence written in the year 340. And when a scientist finally read it right, she won a Nobel Prize. And number 7 was sealed in Egyptian tombs, and you can hold it this week. If this knowledge belongs in your life, tap subscribe and stay rooted. The rooted are not subscribers. The rooted are those who carry this knowledge forward, one kitchen at a time. The first plant I watched being pressed was at that same Nile mudflat at dawn. The Egyptians called it bak, the oil, bak. The Hausa of West Africa call it zogale, zojale. In the Philippines, malunggay. In India, sajan. Botanists say Moringa oleifera, Moringa oleifera. You may know it only as the miracle tree, a name sold to you by a market worth billions. I watched the embalmers press the seed for skin and for the funerary rites of the god Pa. The Ebers papyrus, around 1550 before the Common Era, knew this tree. The Greeks and Romans imported its bihin oil across the Mediterranean. Across the Sahel and in Ayurveda, it has fed and tended the body for thousands of years. And somewhere along the way, the West decided it was a supplement and forgot everything else. Here is how you use it. The dried leaf brewed as tea is the traditional remedy for colds and minor infections. The fresh leaf is eaten as food. The World Health Organization uses moringa leaf in programs against childhood malnutrition. Cold-pressed seed oil is the traditional dressing for wounds and burns. Small trials have found modest reductions in fasting blood sugar and blood lipids. The science is still early. Hold it lightly. The danger: the leaf is food safe. The root and root bark are not. They can act on the womb. If you are pregnant, never take them. Leaf, yes. Root, no. You believe the next one is a treat. You have been taught wrong. The Maya called it caca. The Mexica called the drink zacalotl, chocolatl, bitter water. The Yucatec said chocoha, choco-hh. Linnaeus named the tree Theobroma, food of the gods. The Olmec knew it before the Maya wrote it down. Vessels from 1900 years before the Common Era still hold its residue. The Chilam Balam, the Maya Book of Healing, prescribes a cacao and herb drink for fevers and seizures. The Mexica spent the beans as money and demanded them as tribute. This was not dessert. It was pharmacy, currency, and the blood of the gods in one bitter cup. Sugar buried the medicine. That is what happened. Here is how you take it the old way. Bean ground on stone, mixed with chili, maize, or a little honey, drunk unsweetened. The flavanol epicatation, EPICATEN, has controlled trial support for healthy blood vessel function. In flavanol-rich cocoa, not in candy. Caution: cacao carries caffeine and theobromine, the OH bromine. Go gently if you are sensitive. Theobromine is genuinely poisonous to dogs. Never share it. If you take blood pressure medication, speak with your physician first. Be still a moment. Count it with me. The embalmer who pressed that first oil did so 35 centuries ago. 100 generations of healers passed this knowledge hand to hand, mouth to ear, until somewhere in the last 100 years the chain was cut. I am here to tie it back together. Stay rooted. We are only beginning to climb. The next one, medieval Europe weighed like treasure, then forgot entirely. The Yoruba call it ater, ate are. The Igbo, osji, ose oji. Botanists say Aframomum meligata, Afraemomum melegueta. I watched this seed press to a Yoruba newborn's tongue at naming. The Igbo serve it with kola at marriages and burials. The Efik once used it in trials of judgment. By the 1300s, Portuguese ships had carried it to London apothecaries beside cloves. The West African coast was called the Grain Coast for it. Then black pepper flooded Europe from the other direction, and this seed was simply dropped. The seed, chewed raw with cola, is the traditional remedy for stomach trouble. Macerated as a poultice for swollen joints. A Gifu University study found its compound 6-paradol activates brown fat, and in one small trial, modestly reduced visceral fat over 4 weeks. Animal work and small human trials only. Hold the science lightly. Caution, acts on the womb in tradition, not for use in pregnancy. The next plant I hand you carefully because its warning is sharper than any so far. You must never put this plant in your mouth. A pink flower that grows like a weed by the roadside. The Malagasy brewed it for diabetes and bleeding. Healers across the Caribbean used it too. Botanists call it Catharanthus rosus, Catharanthus rohzus. In 1950, Canadian researchers isolated a compound from its leaves. By 1961, Eli Lilly launched vinblastine, and with vincristine beside it, built a chemotherapy that brought childhood leukemia and Hodgkin's lymphoma into remission. Both drugs now sit on the WHO Essential Medicines list. A roadside weed became one of the most important medicines ever made. The lesson here is not a home remedy. These are powerful chemotherapy drugs given only by physicians. The raw plant is poisonous and can cause hallucinations. Do not eat it, brew it, or prepare it. The use I give you is history, and the grief that Madagascar was never compensated for the knowledge it gave to the world. And that injustice is where the next plant begins, because this time, the people whose knowledge was taken fought back and won. In a town called Alice, in South Africa's Eastern Cape, the Zulu, the Xhosa, the Basotho, and the Mafengu boiled a dark root for generations, for coughs, for bronchitis, for the wasting of the chest. Called it Umckaloabo, heavy cough. Botanists call it Pelargonium seedoides, Pelargonium seedoides. A German company patented the method of extracting it and sold the medicine back to the world. The community of Alice did not stay silent. With the African Center for Biosafety, they challenged the patent, and on the 27th of January 2010, the European Patent Office revoked it. The medicine was never theirs to own. Grandmothers proved it in a courtroom. Far to the north, the San people of the Kalahari had already lived through the same story. Their hunger suppressant plant, Hoodia, patented and sold before anyone asked their permission. A benefit-sharing agreement came later. The pattern repeats. So does the resistance. The root decoction is the traditional remedy for coughs and chest infection. Cochrane reviewers found the standardized extract modestly eased acute bronchitis symptoms. Symptom relief, not a tuberculosis treatment. TB belongs in a clinic, caution. Rare reports of liver injury. Interacts with blood-thinning medication. The wild root is overharvested. Buy responsibly. This knowledge does not belong to me. It never did. It belongs to the people of Alice, to the San of the Kalahari, to the Malagasy grandmother, and now for a moment to you. Pass it forward. That is what the rooted do. Now I will show you where a Nobel Prize was hidden, not in a laboratory, but in a sentence 16 centuries old. In the year 340, the Chinese physician Ge Hong wrote, in a handbook small enough to tuck in a sleeve, to break a fever, soak this herb, qīnghāo, in cold water, wring the juice, drink it. Cold water, he underlined it. 16 centuries later, Tu Yo, working inside a secret military program during the Vietnam War, read that exact line. She understood what cold meant. Heat was destroying the medicine. She switched to cold extraction, isolated Artemisinin in 1972, and in 2015, she won the Nobel Prize in Medicine. Artemisinin and its derivatives are now the WHO first-line treatment for malaria, a disease still killing hundreds of thousands a year, hardest on children in sub-Saharan Africa. That is the vindication. Modern science kneeling to a 4th century healer's sentence. The caveat matters. Treat malaria with combination therapy from a clinic, not a homemade wormwood tea. Underdosing breeds drug resistance, and that costs lives. First trimester of pregnancy. Seek medical guidance. And now the 7th, the one I sealed into the very opening of this story. I watched it carried north on Sudanese caravan routes, so prized the seeds were sealed in Egyptian tombs. The same Nile world where we began. Across sub-Saharan Africa, it is called the Tree of Life, and the upside-down tree, because legend says the gods planted it roots first in the sky. Botanists call it Adansonia digitata, the baobab. From Senegal to Sudan to the East African plains, healers boiled its bark for fever, pulped its fruit for dysentery and dehydration. In the Gambia, I watched mothers eat its fruit through pregnancy for its calcium. Here is how you use it today. The fruit dries on the branch, nature's own freeze dryer, into a tangy white powder. Stir it into water and drink it. It carries vitamin C at 7 to 10 times the concentration of an orange, with polyphenols and soluble fiber that feeds the gut. Early human studies are beginning to examine its effect on blood sugar after a meal. The science is still gathering, but the tree has been doing this work for a very long time. There is almost no danger to name. Allergy is very rare. This is why it earns its name, the living root, safe, real, within reach. So take stock of what you now carry. Moringa, leaf and oil, never the root in pregnancy. Cacao, bitter and unsweetened, the old medicine, not the candy. Grains of paradise, the chewed seed, not in pregnancy. The Madagascar Periwinkle, honored from a distance, never prepared at home. Umckaloabo, taken in a courtroom and won back. Qīnghāo, the fever herb whose medicine belongs to the clinic. Baobab, the tree of life, a powder you can stir into water this very week. Your one action, find the one already within reach. For most of you, that is baobab or moringa leaf, and bring it into your kitchen. Hold it. Learn its name in the mouth of the people who first trusted it. Use it the way your great-grandmother's grandmothers did. If this knowledge belongs in your life, stay rooted with me. The rooted are not subscribers. The rooted carry this knowledge forward, one kitchen at a time. Carry this knowledge well. It was paid for in centuries.